We are now joined by the Secretary of State, Susan Bysiewicz, who's here with lots of good information about getting registered to vote, and also you have a lot of good perspective on this very busy, crazy election season. Susan, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, let's just get right to it. How much time do people have to register if they're watching all of these candidates and saying, I want to have my say too?
Absolutely. Well, you can send in your voter registration card if you've never registered before by October 19th.
Has to be postmarked by?
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you'd like to go in person, you have until October 26th to register, right up until 8 p.m. at your town hall.
Okay, that's good information. And have you seen, are you tracking, are a lot of people registering?
Absolutely. We have had almost 60,000 new people register since the beginning of the year, 5,000 new people just in the last 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And we expect to have a crush of people between now and October 26th because that's when we have a lot happening. Now, 60,000 is very strong, but it's nowhere near the 300,000 that we had when we were looking at the presidential election 2 years ago.
Right, right.
Madam Secretary, it's great to see you again. And I wanted to ask you, now's about the time where politicos and pundits start predicting turnout. I even heard one former politico say that it's going to be the lowest turnout ever. Do you have any sense of somewhere in between there?
Oh, I think people want to make their voices heard. Whenever you have a situation where you have more than 100,000 people who've lost their jobs and very definite opinions about where Hartford and Washington should be going, I think people do step up. Usually we get 80% turnout in a presidential election. 60% is what we usually see in a state election. We've had some very high-profile races for governor and United States Senator, so I'm expecting a 60% turnout.
Everyone also has an idea about how negative campaigning affects turnout. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know, it's interesting. You hear people complain a lot, and there are even a few people who will threaten not to vote. But I think in the end, people do show up because when races are close, and we have some potentially close ones right here, people understand that in a small state, it's important to make your voice heard. We've had Congress races decided by just a handful of votes.
Of the 60,000 people who have registered, are they registering with the party? Do you have a breakdown on that?
We see the biggest chunk of the electorate registering as unaffiliated, second as Democrat, and third as a Republican. But it's those unaffiliated voters that always make the difference.
Yeah, and we're seeing that, I think, in the polls. You also mentioned that the military ballots are out, right?
They are, and for the first time, town clerks can email ballots overseas for anybody who is either serving or living outside the country. So for those several thousand young people that are serving our country overseas, they have an opportunity to literally get their ballot instantaneously, but they still have to send it back. So if you have a loved one who's serving overseas, now's the time to get that ballot sent to that soldier overseas.
And what's the deadline for that?
The ballot has to be received by the town clerk at 8 p.m. on election night.
Oh, okay.
So there's still time.
Yeah, definitely still time.
And I wanted to ask you, Madam Secretary, a political question. And I think I kind of know the answer to this already, but
you'll ask it anyway.
I'm going to ask it anyway. The answer is usually it's too early to talk about it, et cetera. But you're one of the hardest working, most tenacious people in what they're tasked with that we've seen. And I'm wondering whether you're still interested in elected office.
You know, I love public service, and right now I'm just trying to get our state smoothly through the November 2nd election, hopefully with no recounts. And then after that, I have until January to serve, and I will be taking a deep breath, but I hope that there is a way for me to continue in public service because I really enjoy it.
And might that include the Senate race in 2012?
You never know. Have me back. We'll talk about it.
I was going to say it here.
Fair enough.
You mentioned also the incredible number of write-ins. This is a very busy and active election season.
And we still have until October 19th for candidates to register write-in candidacies. But already we have 14 people, including 4 who are write-in candidates for the United States Senate. And that's why in some towns we actually have 2-sided ballots. So to the voters, make sure you look on both sides of the ballot because in at least 15 towns there are 2 sides. I don't want anyone to miss any candidates.
Does that rank? Is that an unusual amount?
It is. Yeah. It is. It's an unusually large amount, but we've had a lively election so far, and it continues with the write-in candidacies.
Absolutely. And, I also wanted to mention you did send out a press release today talking about the third quarter data with new business starts and business closures. How are the numbers looking?
Well, the good news is we've had fewer business failures. The disappointing news is we've had fewer starts of new businesses compared to the same quarter last year. So our recession hopefully is waning. We're seeing some good signs, but it's in fits and stops.
Both Denise Merrill and Jerry Farrell, who've both been here and seeking to be Secretary of State, have talked about how they really want that office to be like the good first impression for businesses. What do you think? How do you think they could do that?
Business starts at the Secretary of the State's office. So one thing is to make all the forms accessible and have everything available online because you want that impression to be a good one. But also there's so much that the Secretary of the State can do as an advocate for improving the business climate. And that's why I've advocated to eliminate the business entity tax and to reduce utility rates and to make health insurance more affordable. So there's so many ways that the Secretary of the State could influence the business climate in our state, and I hope whoever continues in my position will continue to do that because it's very important.
Absolutely.
And I asked this question of Denise Merrill, should she be elected, and I wanted your viewpoint on it. Is it possible, I imagine it's possible, but is it troubling to have to work with a governor of a different party?
I wish I had the experience of working with a governor from a different party. For the past 12 years, I've worked very well with Republican governors. I can say that more could be accomplished in the area of one-stop shopping and permitting. The only states that have accomplished that have been states where the governor and the Secretary of the State are of the same party. So I wish whoever takes over well with that.
Great.
Right. Thanks a lot, Susan. We appreciate you coming by, giving us good information. I know that people, if they have any more questions, can go to the website, right?
Absolutely.
And figure out how they can stay involved in this election process. Thanks again to Susan Bysiewicz, Secretary of State. Also to Pat Scully, who's always a welcome part of our show. Don't forget, if you missed something here on The Real Story, you can now watch it online by going to ctnow.com. You can also catch us on YouTube. And you can follow me on Twitter or friend me on Facebook. Thanks so much for watching this week's edition of The Real Story. We'll see you here again next week.